All right. Excellent. We are now going live on Facebook. As soon as I see us pop up there, you can take this if you need it. But I need to be able to. All right, we're live. Go live. Excellent. Oh, yeah. Excellent. All right, so we are going live, and I should be visible in a second. Okay. All right, welcome everyone to Rise Up Together We Win. We're here one more time. We are so excited tonight because we have an amazing panelist as well as an amazing story from Miss Kim Glass, and you guys are just going to be just in for a treat tonight. So I'm very thankful. We're your hosts, Doctors Richard and Nefertina Serrano, the marriage CEOs, yes, your relationship experts. We're certified marriage counselors, international speakers, and certified life coaches. We also believe in mentoring. We believe in paying it forward. We think it's very important to have mentorship. We support you the people, to achieve balance and stability in life and business through biblical principles to build a more effective communication in your marriage and in your relationships. That's a little bit about us. We are also co-founders of Covenant Marriages, Covenant Rescue 911, and Covenant Marriages Institute. And we have a book. It's called The Marriage Corporation, Corporate Strategies for Fulfilling God's Purpose in a Covenant Marriage. Well, I want you to wait no further because we have this amazing team tonight. And we just want to begin to talk about things that matter most to us. So tonight's topic is dealing in depression. We want to rise up from depression, from fear, and from suicidal thoughts. So we have a panel here that's going to talk about that tonight. We're going to start with introducing to you the wonderful, amazing Miss Kim Glass. She is a TEDx award-winning speaker and best-selling author of a book. She has her book called Unshakable Courage. In addition to 20 plus years of corporate experience and expertise, she, along with her team, has built a 7-figure entrepreneurial business initially started, how about this, during a lunchroom hour. Her services are in the areas of counseling, speaking, workshop, facilitation, and retreats. This is none other than Miss Kim Glass. Hello, Kim. How are you this evening?
Thanks for the invitation.
You're very, very welcome. We are just super excited to have you. You were muted, so I didn't hear what you said at first.
Oh, I just said thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes. I'm going to introduce some of our other panels because we want to be able to go right on through the night, and we don't want to interrupt your story because we know it is an amazing one, and we don't want to have to rush that. Our next speaker will be coming back to you, beautiful lady, is none other than Dr. George James. George Talks LLC. He's a relationship and mental health expert. He also is a student from the TED Talks conference, and he does workshops. He's an amazing speaker. We work alongside him in a group called Eusebia Weekend Experience. Dr. George James is a licensed marriage and family therapist. He is the program director of a master's program in couples and family therapy. He specializes in helping couples improve the quality of their relationship, reconcile conflicts, and overcome intense situations such as affairs, lack of communication, parenting struggles, and so much more. Welcome, Dr. George. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm honored and grateful to be a part of the panel and looking forward to this great discussion.
Listen, we're the ones sitting on our ends of our seats of expectation here tonight. So thank you so much. We'll be right back with you. We're just going to go on to our next speaker and panelist, Dr. Kia Everett, owner of Finding Your Way LLC, a mental health urgent care practice. She specializes in trauma, cognitive behavioral therapy. Dr. Everett is a highly sought after speaker who has spoken everywhere from churches to conferences around the world, spreading the importance of mental health awareness. Dr. Everett is dedicated to helping people heal mentally. She is not only a counseling mental health practice, but she has a mental health urgent care practice, which means Dr. Everett is available immediately for appointments. Thank you. Hi, Dr. Everett.
Gotcha.
Are you there? All right. We have up with us, maybe she stepped away, I'm not sure. Dr. Sandri Serrano Bermudez. You got to say it with a roll. Dr. Sandri Serrano Bermudez, she has an amazing foundation. Listen, there is nothing that this lady doesn't do. I really don't know. But I can tell you this. She has a foundation called the Hand Foundation. It's located in New Jersey. Dr. Sandri's nonprofit organization is committed and dedicated to building men and women and families of character, vision, and action to confidently make differences in society at large. She addresses the spiritual and social demanding needs for an education. She helps them to know that they can be self-reliant, vigorous within their community. Come on, come on. This amazing lady, what doesn't she do? Dr. Sandri Bermudez, welcome.
Thank you. What a pleasure to be here once again. It's going to be an amazing evening. Thank you for having me.
I kind of kidnapped you, right? Haven't I? I'm like, you're every week. We need you. I think her.
Here to serve. Here to serve.
So listen, we
It's a
have
pleasure.
we have a real important topic to talk about this evening. Right before we do, Dr. Everett, I was just going over a little bit about what you do with your mental health agency and how you serve the community. And I just wanted to just say hello to you this evening as we're preparing to get started.
Good evening. How are you? Thank you so much for having me. I was saying I was here. I don't know. You guys couldn't hear me.
No, but that's all right because we're going to hear a lot more from you coming later. So yeah, we did tell them a little bit about your organization and what you do with your business and Finding Your Way LLC. And
Yes.
you told the panel about yourself, but what about the audience? Let the people that are watching live know what you do.
So the mental health urgent care. So basically, my mental health urgent care is a mental health practice, and we provide services. We try to get people in within the first 24 hours of their call. And the reason that we do that is because in my work, one of the downsides of mental health is when people put that initial call, we found that it usually takes at least 3 months from the initial call for them to get services. So people who are calling, when they make that initial call, when they get the courage to make the call to say, hey, I need help, they need help right then. So to have to wait 3 months, by the time that they can get an appointment, at that point, they don't need the help. So wow. Our urgent care services is basically, we try to follow the model just like urgent care services that you could receive from a physical standpoint. So I try to get them in within the first 24 hours to see either me or one of my staff members. And what we do is we provide counseling services, basically just to stabilize them. It's not a crisis center. We're not providing crisis services. We're not providing residential, it is to provide immediate counseling services. So for example, if someone gets a call that they've lost a family member or they've lost a loved one, point in the middle of a pandemic and they need services, we would provide emergency counseling services to kind of stabilize their emotions, to get them out of the heightened level of emotions, so that they're able to function. We don't accept any insurance because the point is to try to get them in an emergency basis. So we're not going through, trying to make sure their insurances are good and all those kinds of things.
Gotcha.
We usually can stabilize a person within the first couple of visits. And then at that point, they transition to, if they want to, they transition to seeing someone that will accept their insurance. Because at that point, that's when they can go and see the person that would have seen them in 3 months' time.
Awesome. Well, obviously these types of services are needed. And especially in our inner city, where, we don't get to have those types of services readily available. You usually have to go out into the suburbs or to other areas for it. So you're definitely a blessing in that regard. We're going to be coming back to you a little bit later. Thank you so much for giving us that upfront information. And we are so ready to get.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. We're going to move on and talk to Kim. We like to bring you front and center because you have such an amazing story. And your story is one that we think that, should be shared with the world. And so if we can just have her come forward. There we go. Yes. We want everyone to be able to see your beautiful face. So, Kim, I'm just going to ask that you can, in your own words, we know that you have a book out, Unshakable Courage. We know that you're doing so many things and you're traveling all over the world. Can you share with us, because I thought your story was so intriguing. There's more people that they may not be in a cult per se, but there are people out there that are living in bondage in their own homes. They're living in fear in their own situations. And if you could just help shed some light on your story and then tell us how you were able to break free and rise out.
Sure. Yeah, so I know what it feels like to live in fear. I was a member of a religious cult for 35 years. And because of the fear of the leaders, I lost my parents for a time. I lost my freedom and I lost myself. I remember the time in the supermarket parking lot when the cult leader had me in the car with her and another cult member, and they were driving through the parking lot and my mother and father were coming out. And it was the first time that I had seen my mother so hysterical, seeing me with them and unable to do anything, because I had been conditioned since birth to love and adore these people. And my mother started screaming words I could not even repeat in the media. And the fear that I felt and the confusion that I felt, torn between two people that I loved and respected. And with that confrontation, the cult leader screeched out of the parking lot. 15 years later, I saw that same exact pattern starting to happen between me and my daughter. And it was a wake-up call like none other. Wow. Because I had been through so much, I was not going to sit back and allow my daughter to go through the same thing. And that's when I said, enough is enough. I refuse to live in fear. And for me, I had awakenings. I had a couple of awakenings along that path. But what really, my first step was I knew within myself that I had reached an age of accountability, that if I didn't stop this pattern, it was going to repeat. And it had repeated in my family, and I was the fourth generation. And so I knew I had to muster up courage in the face of the most evil fear you can imagine. And I had to do that by getting myself brave. So the B, believe in myself. It's the very foundation of what my courage was built on in order to face that evil and get on the other side. Our roadmap. Through my journey, I started road mapping and connecting the dots that could move me away from that fear. A, my abilities. I had to believe so strong in my own abilities, and also look for other abilities that I might need to learn that could take me on the other side of that fear. And then the V was view. The only view that I could spend my time focused on was the goal for fearless freedom. And there was nothing that was going to stop me from that. And then the E, expectations. I had to forget about the opinions of other people that were doing things to our family that were not of God, was not what we had initially been taught. And I had to rely on the only expectation was my own expectations. And so that was kind of the starting spot for me to get myself brave, get in the owner's, get in the driver's seat of my life so that I could help my daughter. When we fly on an airplane, they always say, put the oxygen mask on your face first. Yeah. I had to do that for myself first so that I could help my daughter and we could be on the other side of that. So that was my journey. That was some things that happened along that way. And then I have a whole roadmap beyond that of how I help people overcome fear, because you see, a lot of times we're operating from a pattern that we don't even recognize. And so we have to face the reality of what's really going on so that we can release that fear in order to live with power.
Wow. Well, this is the thing. As I stated earlier, our show tonight is talking about not only facing the fear, but, the depression that comes when you are inside a situation. And normally when you're in a cult or when you're in an oppressive situation, and, I'm going to even allow, Dr. James or Dr. Kia or, someone else to weigh in. But when you're in an oppressive situation and you don't realize that it is an oppressive situation, you just know you don't feel comfortable. What was some of the things that helped you to determine that I shouldn't be in this place? I'm in this place, but I don't think I should be here. When did you come to that reality?
Well, my first wake-up call, like I said, was it was actually before I had my daughter, and realizing that if something didn't change, if they didn't change something, I knew that I had to move out of my comfort zone to change something, or it was going to be duplicated to the next generation. And for me, I just think of the day of 9/11 was such a pivotal time, not only for our country, but I remember sitting there watching TV and thinking, life is too short to be living in fear. And I had already gone through, things that I was being told in a religious setting did not mesh up biblically. And so a lot of the prayers that I prayed, even in that evil environment, I'm enjoying those today. I have those things, but it was, in spite of that, and in spite of how I was raised, I had such strong faith. And I know that that faith, even in that situation, is what helped me to have the courage that I needed to break free from that and not allow that same not allow that to go to the next generation. And I think we see that a lot with generations. And, you know, we're taught certain things and we believe certain things, or we're raised certain ways.
Right.
And then at some point we start awakening to, you know, why am I doing this? What, you know, why am I allowing these people to make me feel so fearful that when they're calling my house, I'm getting sick at my stomach? Like, that's not, it started being like, that's God is love. He's not a fear. You know, you're not supposed to fear man. And so all of these teachings that I had learned so early on in my life started showing up and really giving me more clarity and conviction that I needed to move away from this thing, because this thing had gotten so far off course.
Wow. Yeah, you know, when we're in situations that we don't understand, but yet we know innately and something inside of us, you know, the Holy Spirit, and that spirit is trying to tell us something when things aren't right, when you shouldn't be in a certain situation. And, you know, it takes a lot to rise up out of those types of situations. It takes a lot of, you know, understanding, like you said, that, you know, God isn't like that. You know, that's not the God that I know. That's not the God that I believe in. So, you know, what they were trying to make, you know, make you feel and make you believe, you had to realize that's not my belief, you know.
Correct. Right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I was going to also say that, you know, what you went through is definitely something that a lot of people don't come out of.
Yeah.
You know, manipulation, that learned behavior. It had to be generations after generations that they were doing that. You know, because you know, there's a lot of family members that we never met that passed away, that we have them inside of us, or characteristics like them. So we fight even through those voices in our minds about certain things to do, which is, you know, which in itself is pretty tough.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So, you know, for you to come out of this, you definitely are courageous, and that's just
Yeah.
why God has you to do, to speak out and to help others to come out of that, you know, along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the biggest fears I had was, you know, I had so many friends from the time of birth, you know, so by the time I left at, you know, 35 years old, you know, I had I knew if I left, those people would not be able to be friends with me anymore. So here I had this strong community of friendships, so to speak. And that was one of the things that kept me there for so long. And interestingly enough, when we did leave and we broke free from that, it was so interesting. We never heard from them one time.
Wow.
They never called to check on us one time. And within probably, I would say within 18 months, I put together an event of all the former members that had left through the years. And there was over 200 people that showed up. And that was such a breakthrough, because what I thought I would lose in leaving, I actually gained more than what I thought I would lose. And the aha moment for so many people at that reunion was they were able to piece and connect the dots and figure out that the same thing that happened to their family was happening to other people, but they thought it was just their family, or they thought they just weren't good enough, or they just weren't smart enough, or they just didn't have the income enough. And so it was really an amazing experience to know that by taking a stand in the face of evil,
Yeah.
you help other people, and to be the voice. You know, there's so many people living in various irrational fears, and they may not even know why they have that fear. But I think I'm very passionate about helping people take their voice from a whisper to a roar.
Come
And I
on.
guess I would say I've probably been in my own program.
Yes, that's all right, honey. That's all right.
So we do have a comment on Facebook, and it says it's by January Brent. It says, know the difference between religion and religious.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I see that to be so true, because even now and today, what's going on in life, um, religious, religious and religion is two different things. Right now, you have to be so strong in your faith
Yes.
to be able to conquer all of that's coming our way, you know. But
Yes.
I do want to talk to Dr. George. Did you have any comments or anything?
Yeah, Kim, thanks for sharing that. And it is extremely amazing and powerful that you were able to do that. The initial thing is that I thought about that story when people talk about, like, I guess they use frogs, right? About how, like, the frog could be in the pot and right at the low burn and it doesn't really know it. And then over time, right, they're really just being cooked. And like, there's so many ways that we get cooked with messages of what it means to be a woman, messages of what it means to be a man, what does it mean to be faithful, to be all these things. There's so many messages that the world tries to give us. And it also made me just think about how, how the Bible talks about, studying to show thyself approved, right? That, like, there's a way that it's important for us to learn on our own. And it's so challenging and so difficult when it's your family or your surroundings or people you trust, for you then to push against it. I actually had a session with a client earlier today where we're just talking about how is it for her to be able to be on her own, to figure out who she is, even when her culture, her family, and everything else is trying to tell her different, and to know her own truth. And I think that happens in the body of Christ too, is really figuring out what is it that God is really telling us, and how do we get supports, how do we get wise counsel, how do we get those who can really pour into us and help us find the path that God has. And it sounds like, Kim, you were able to do that, and that you were able to do that for other people. So I think that's just great.
While you're speaking, Dr. George, that is very good feedback. I just wanted to say, Kim told us how she's able to rise above her fear. Right now, there are a lot of people that are sitting in a mental state of depression. They're, with this social distancing and being at home, there are couples we're all going through. And it's not easy. Even the ones of us that really get along, right?
Right, right.
I get along with my husband. Like, I work with him in life and in ministry, entrepreneurship. We're together all the time. But this is a whole nother level of togetherness, honey.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know what I'm saying? There's only but so many rooms in the house.
Find your corner.
So I thought this was a big house for two grown folks, with 4 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms. Listen, it starts getting smaller and smaller. So I say that to say to you, if you could speak to us a little bit about, the I would say the traps and the ensnares of depression,
Yeah.
that tries to entangle you, right? Because it's the little things
Mm-hmm.
that become these ginormous issues between husband and wives. And they don't realize it. I learned that being home, even with being home, I'm more tired being home than
Yeah.
I was doing my everyday business. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, the ensnares that depression can really bring you into, and how we can rear from that and acknowledge it, right? Recognize it when it does come.
Yeah, what you're saying is really important. And like, for many people, like you said, even with the really good and great relationships, are finding pitfalls or struggles. And so then if you imagine those who have okay relationships, or those who have struggling relationships, or those who have toxic relationships, are really going through it in this time. And, you know, when you talk about depression, and I'll also just add like anxiety, that this is a time where, like, if you've never felt it before, you're feeling it now, right? If you felt like, all right, life is overall good, I have some ups and downs, but I'm okay, right? You're feeling, what does it mean to be nervous? What does it mean to worry over and over? What does it mean to feel sad? And then for those who have felt it before, they are in it even more, right? They feel they're overwhelmed. Some people are so overwhelmed that it's hard for them to get out of bed. It's hard for them to do their daily routine. And when you add that to couples, it's hard for people to be in rhythm, in sync. And what I found with the couples I've worked with is that people have had to find a new rhythm, and that is hard, right? You're used to what time you get up, what time you leave, what time you get in, who's going to cook, what you're going to do with the kids if you have kids, right? All these things you're used to, and now you got to reset on all of that. And, you know, when you talk about traps and things that where people get stuck, what I found is it's the small things. Definitely, it's your tone of voice, right? Recognizing that you got an attitude. What you just said was full of attitude, was blame, was attack. It was putting gasoline on the fire. And I think people are at such a tense point right now because of the virus, because of loss, because of all these things, that they end up getting to this place where that gasoline on the fire now creates an explosion. And what you would have had space to maybe walk it off or wait or not go too far, now becomes this big battle. And I've seen more people getting into arguments and struggles and saying and doing things that they shouldn't or isn't healthy. What I would say to counter that is, if you can, check yourself, right? That sometimes we gotta be aware that, like, what we just said was inappropriate. What we just said was not right. What we just said was out of pocket, right? What we just said is actually making things worse. And can we hear when our spouse or partner says to us, hey, that's not, that hurt, or I didn't like that. And if it all fails, you know, maybe find your own separate corner. Find the place that you can recharge. Some couples, that's been waking up early in the morning. Some is maybe staying up a little bit later. Some it's going on a walk together. Figure out the way that you can recharge. And if you don't have those things, you know, it's always important that you find ways to pray, to read, to hear the word in whatever way. Especially now that it's online, you can listen to as many services and words as you need to fill you and your relationship. So there's just a lot of different ways, but you have to be intentional about it, be aware of it, and try not to put no more gasoline on it, because it's already ready to explode.
That's real good. So we know I love being able to counteract it by checking myself. Let me check myself.
You know, I was gonna go ready to check the rooms and see if you was actually looking at our video, our home video, because this is true. It's so true. You know, I'm a morning person. My wife is a night person, and even those little things, honey, you coming to bed yet? No, not yet. But we have to wake up early to go to work, and you know. But it's kind of like those little things that can start those fires. You know, and we do have to check ourselves. You know.
Yeah, and just real quickly, just yesterday, my wife and the kids, we went on a hike and we were doing all good. And then at the end of the hike, I was looking at my phone. I could have waited 2 more minutes till we got to the car. I checked my phone early, and my wife said something to me, and I was almost like I was gone. I was almost like over like something really simple, and it was like, but she, you know, she was right. I was right. We were both right. But like I was gonna almost let the phone take me out. And I think that's what happens for a lot of couples. They like little things take them out when it was like, look, we just had a great hike, great family time. That's
Yeah.
what I need to focus on.
Yes. I love it. You
That's
know,
right.
and these are things.
But if I may,
Dr. Kia?
Dr. Kidd, go ahead.
if I may interject,
We're having a hard time hearing you, Dr. Kidd,
Your
and we can't see you.
your mic is gone out.
not only
Okay.
We're gonna come right back to you because your mic is mute. Your mic is not good. So with that being said, Dr. George,
but you know, with also with the teammate.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna have to have her come back in. Unfortunately, I don't know what's happening with her video, but I want to make sure that we stay on this topic because this is the stuff that is the real talk. This is the stuff that really happens between adults, right? We're supposed to be mature adults because relationships is for mature people. And so it's really important that we understand that when we're in these kinds of situations, it can be those little things that can make us go off the deep end. And so it's important that we, like you said, rear back, check ourselves, be like, yeah, it really isn't worth all of that, because that can really take you into a whole nother place in the argument.
Right. So I do have another question. Well, I have a question. Because I know that, when we counsel couples and they work overnights and that different shifts, lack of sleep, how important is that? We know that it's important to get sleep, but in a relationship, how important it is to have the same shift as all possible, getting that sleep, making sure that both parties are really showing concern, and helping one another.
I think it's important that if you don't have the same shift, is that you're making sure that you have time together. And going back to what you mentioned, when you add depression into it, right, you're saying that people are now more irritable, more moody, they're sleeping more or sleeping less, they're eating more or eating less, and that sometimes takes away from being able to have time together. And so if you have overnight shift and somebody's working on the morning shift, or even now because of COVID-19, you have some couples where somebody is working outside of the house and the other person is now home working, and now they have to recalibrate to figure out where is their time together. You have to sit down and go over the schedule, and even in our house, we've had to talk about, like, we have young kids, so how do we homeschool? How do we figure this out? We've had to figure out what is the schedule for this week, and it could be different for next week, and we have to go through it. And so for those who have different schedules, I would say make some time together and make it a high priority. And if you are struggling or with depression or feeling low or sad or overwhelmed, be able to say that, because that can also make it hard for you to make time. Because when you're depressed, you don't want to do nothing. You're like, nothing, like let's go out for a walk. Nah, I don't want to. Let's get up. Nah, I don't want to do it. It's like, and it becomes really overwhelming for the other person because you don't want to do anything. And that makes it really important to find a way that you find some way to connect, no matter what your schedule is, no matter how you feel, no matter what's going on, because that small division leads to a bigger division, leads to a bigger break, and it just goes from there.
Yes, thank you so much for the insight. I want to see if Dr. Kia is back yet.
No, she's not back.
Okay.
Comment
so
on Facebook.
There's a comment. One of our viewers says, "Fear must be broken," and this may be to you, Kim, or it will strangle the life out of you. They said, "Kim, your story is an encouragement for many that they too can be freed from the prison of fear." Wow. You see, this is the kind of thing that we're talking about when we have shows like this, because you don't know how many people out there are in need of being risen up, are in need of coming out of their situations. And so, I just feel that we must talk about these things, because our stories are our testimonies, and they help not only our own overcoming, but they help others to overcome too.
Yes,
Yeah.
I so agree. And I know for me personally, when you can get to the place and you start, like I've said before, when you start really digging in and kind of peeling the layers of what is the reality. I know for me, I started peeling that layer kind of like an onion. And then before I got to the core of the onion, I made a decision. I had enough of the facts. I had enough of the reality. And once I made that decision that I refuse to live in fear anymore, and I let all of that unbelief, the lies of other people's opinions, it didn't matter how long I had lived it, I was taking a stand for it. I don't really know how to explain it other than to say, once I made that decision that this was stopping with me, things started lining up for my new path. And just, I've told people before, it took me 35 years to get to that place. And once I made that decision and started that new path, I can literally like close my eyes and think, wow, look how much changed in such a shorter amount of time when I started living from my truth and my beliefs and my values and what I wanted for my family outside of what anyone else thought, without any more fear. Because for me, I started recognizing when I was living in fear, I was living in someone else's past opinion of me.
Wow.
And then I also noticed when I felt anxiety there, I was too far in the future thinking what they would do to my future. So to me, fear was of the past. My anxiety came thinking that they were going to try to get this to the next generation. But when I made the decision to stop it, that I just took this stand that this was it. I told you 9/11 was my final wake up when I said, life is too short to be this miserable. And if anything is going to change, it's for me to change it. By that next Easter, which was end of March, I was out of it. So 35 years to get there. And from 9/11 until the end of March, it was Easter weekend. That Sunday, Easter Sunday, was the day that I said, I'm not going there. I'm done. It's over. So 35 years versus a few months of doing the internal work and figuring out what I needed to do to move away from that fear and to roadmap myself out of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, it's amazing that you knew. I mean, even with that unbelievable amount of time, you were able to get to a place where you said, this has got to stop.
Right.
You know, where you heard, you know, it was someone's past opinion of who you are. Don't we have to watch out for that even now? Come on. Someone's past opinion of who we are. No, you're thinking about the old me. You're thinking about the me before. You know, that's not who I am now. And so shouldn't we make sure that we stop allowing people's thoughts of who we are define who we see ourselves as, and begin to make sure that we're seeing ourselves as God intended us to see ourselves? You know, and only then can we really rise above anything that someone else thought about us, right?
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
You know, I also want to talk about support, how support is so important in your life.
Yeah.
You know, we went through something some years ago, maybe 12 years ago. So, and I want to be transparent right now, because I want to be able to help. This is about helping others. And, you know, we don't look like what we've been through. Okay. And we thank God for that, because we've been through hell, but we don't look like that. So I thank God that he still covered us and still, still showed us a good life in spite of, right? But we lived in Delaware at the time, and you know, right now people are losing their jobs. You know, they don't have food. That brings about depression, anxiety, right? Suicidal thoughts. I'm sure, because we had those. Because when we lost our home, we lost cars, we lost things, right? All at the same time within several months of each other. And for that to happen to us was devastating. But we had the support of each other. But let me tell you, we pulled into a Dunkin' Donuts one day, and we didn't know how we were going to make it. Somebody lent us a car to get back and forth to do our chores and things that we had to do. And I looked at my wife because we were tired.
Yeah.
We were both tired. When I looked at my wife, I said, honey, I said, you ready? She said, I'm ready. We was going to commit suicide together. We did not know how, and we didn't know how we were going to make it.
Yeah.
But I heard God's voice, and he said, not now, not so.
Yeah.
And when I heard God's voice, and I had to tell my wife, wait a minute, God said, not now, not so.
Yeah.
And we cried because we said, well, how are we going to make it?
Yeah.
We lost our business. We didn't have like anything, and our families didn't know.
Yeah.
We didn't share it with our families because, you know, I mean, a lot of people think you're complaining, but you're really telling them what the problem is. You're not complaining.
Yeah.
People need to hear people that are talking. The problem is when we stop talking, that's a problem.
That's right.
That's where the problem is. So I just wanted to put that out there because right after that, right after we made a decision to live,
Yeah.
God started blessing us, town, home, cars, and well, job first. So we can be able to supply the things that we needed at home.
Yeah.
But you know, no one knows your story. They look at your glory, as they say, but they don't know your story.
Yeah.
You know, what we've been through. But I wanted to share that because I think it's important. We're not perfect. We're not perfect. We're just trying to live the best and to be good people. Christian-like, loving, kind.
Mhm.
I just wanted to say that. I'm sure, you know, we're not alone. I'm sure we're not alone.
Yeah. Someone on Facebook said from fear to focus. We got to move from fear to focus. You know, it allows you to take the opportunity to just breathe, you know, and you don't have to wait to exhale. Just breathe. So I want to thank you, Doris Smith. Thank you for that comment because that's a true comment. Dr. Sandry, come on in the room. We want you to weigh in on this. You know, with all that you do, and you're with so many people all the time, and you're such a big leader in your own right. Share with us, you know, what comments do you have for tonight?
Well, I'm listening, and I remember when I was about 16 years old, and I listened closely to Dr. George James, and I think sometimes we even need to explain to people what depression is.
Yeah.
I think we need to go there for a minute, and I'm going to share why. I was 16 years old when I went through, I don't want to get up, I don't want to do nothing. I was always cold. I didn't understand what was going on. Mind you, a preacher's kid all my wonderful life, a mega church, big movement, oldest of my siblings, therefore I'm a leader no matter what. 10 years old, almost 1,200 members, hello. Miracle after miracle. My father, a great man of faith, and every time I said, I don't know, I just didn't want to do anything. And I went from being totally involved, totally connected. You know how they say many communicate, few connect? No, I did both. I communicated and connected, but when I disconnected, I disconnected. Let me explain to you what happened. First of all, fear either propels you or paralyzes you. Well, the fear of the unknown.
Yes.
The fear of the unknown. I thought it was depression. That's why I said I really would like for Dr. George to go there for a minute, because I kept my mouth shut out of fear of what will my mom think, what will my dad think, the people in church, the pastor's daughter, this girl does this, does that. At 10 years old, I did so much. By 15, I can begin to tell you all that I did. I can literally say at 61, I've been involved with the community. I've been an entrepreneur since I was like a good 16 years old. all of a sudden, I don't want to do a thing. So I hear people say, well, that's a phase. That's this, that, and the other. Long story short, it was my thyroid.
Wow.
Wow.
Get it?
Yes.
And let me explain to you. I started gaining weight just to look at rice I gained. Smell the food I gained. Some good rice and beans and some good veggies. My mother always had a different menu every day. I got to tell you, it was totally different. In our house, it was not rice and beans every day. Nothing wrong with that if that's what you have. You know, make it the best and no problem. But I'll tell you this. I just couldn't understand. I said, oh my goodness, so depression can get you this big? I go to the hospital, they start testing me, and I'll never forget, the doctor just said, you must be doing something wrong. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm following this to a T. I don't want to be like this. Finally, they put cameras. It was ridiculous. Watching me to make sure that I wasn't sneaking the food in, that I wasn't this, that I wasn't that, because I literally could gain 20 to 30 pounds in 1 week. By the time I hit 27, I had every size in the closet. I was one size 10, okay? So let me explain to you, that process nearly at that age destroyed me. When I learned that it was my thyroid, I'll tell you, when I do believe that depression tried to really kick in, I figured, oh, I'm gonna gain weight anyway. Then I got hooked on Godiva, white chocolate, raspberry swirl. And I had to line it up in my freezer, and don't you touch was mine. Do you get what I'm saying? I woke up and I said, I'm gonna gain weight anyway, might as well eat. And the doctor said to me, well, I think we're dealing with two issues now. One, the thyroid, and I think maybe there's a bit of depression. Of course, now I'm in denial. No, wait a minute, you said it's my thyroid. How could it now be depression? So I would like for Dr. George to sort of break it down. What is the meaning? What is depression? Because people are listening. And I remember when I heard a conversation back then about depression, I never would have thought it was my thyroid. Relatively close, similar symptoms. So how do you identify, Dr. George, depression?
Yeah, one, thanks for sharing that, and that you had somebody that actually said that you should go get it checked out. You know, because oftentimes in our lives, in our communities, we don't. And in my world, it is often important that you do get a medical checkup, right? Because no matter what's going on, there's so many things that look dissimilar, right? Like, you know, my parents went through dementia, but they could have been going through depression at an older age, and depression at an older age can look very similar to dementia, right? And so to your point, it's very important. You know, with depression, there's a lot of chemical stuff that's going on in the body, right? From you know, serotonin and things that normally would happen is now not happening in that way. And that could lead to people feeling, like I said, moodiness, irritability, hopelessness, lack of desire. They can end up sleeping more or sleeping less, eating more or eating less, right? But it's an extreme. It's not just a little bit, it's an extreme that people can see the difference. And, you know, to your point, a thyroid condition can lead you to the place where all those things are happening, and then it impacts, like you said, where you get to the place where I'm gaining weight and I feel bad, things don't really fit the way that I wanted to, and then that adds to, it starts with small thoughts of not feeling good to then bigger thoughts about what's my life, and then honestly, you know, there's multiple ways, but then you get attacked. You start to think about how you're not as good as somebody else. You start to compare yourself to other people. And then all of a sudden you see the negative and the bad in everything, in yourself, in your family, in your future, and you can be stuck there. And your mind is playing so many tricks that oftentimes when I'm working with someone, to get them to see the good in themselves or the positive in their life takes a lot of energy and work, because they are so convinced that they're not good enough, somebody else is better, everyone else is greater. And that is what I mean about the attack, because it is heavy and it takes a lot of work, prayer, and energy to be able to move past that.
Wow. Wow, this is such a good topic. Dr. Sandry?
Yes, listen, we're talking about being transparent. All of a sudden, the Lord allows those files to open up. Does anyone understand? You've grown, you've overcome. Hallelujah. We're victorious. No weapon formed against us shall prosper. And we start to look good and feel so good. And we don't want to. Of course, I don't want to live my present and my future in my past. But there comes a time where we need to connect and let the people know, been there, been there. But God, this is how I am. I'm half Puerto Rican, half Italian, and I express myself that way. But in my process, Sandry, there was a moment that I lived life 1 second at a time.
Yeah.
There was a time that I took my wonderful artwork down from amazing. I'm not even going to go into names. My beautiful waterfront home was a beautiful home, and yet I didn't feel that I belong in it. Can anyone identify with what I say? I intentionally had to make a decision. I identify with Kim. I had to make a decision. And I always repeat, not to make a decision is a decision. I had to find new guides. I had to develop new habits. I had to find my lane, my path, my rhythm. I had to let go of people that seemingly were friends and they were not. You have to be careful with who surrounds you, who's your inner circle, because whatever has access to your heart anchors you. It took a while, but I'll tell you something. It does feel good when you overcome. It does feel good when you take your power back. You see what happens when you make a decision, the right decision, and you take your power back, your eyes are wide open, you begin to see yourself the way God sees you, not the way your neighbor sees you, not your friend with Gucci. I'm not saying I don't like Gucci, and I'm not saying I like all the good, and I also enjoy going to the flea market. How's that? Okay, Neiman Marcus, no problem. Flea market, no problem. But I'll tell you something, having the right identity is so important. I say it out loud, I hate religion. We need to understand what is a relationship. And I'm aggressive about that because I see so many people literally in bondage. I see so many people, they won't go to a therapist. Well, guess what? It's a good investment. Find out what your insurance covers. Find out what the fee is. If you don't know what the fee is, and if it is too high, speak to that therapist. How can we work this out? How can we create a win-win? Therapist, psychologist, whatever treatment you need, find the right person that you can connect to, identify with, that they're helping you, not just taking your money. I thank God, openly say it, for my therapist. I thank God. If I were to tell you, I thought I was going to lose my mind. When I first got married, my first marriage, I thought it was, oh my goodness, can't begin to tell you, to have a husband go catatonic at a honeymoon, to then went 90 days because I couldn't check him into a hospital, to then find out I still can't check him into the hospital when he comes out of being catatonic. Then finding out when they finally deal with him that he has 22 disorders. I don't talk about this much, but as many people as I'm seeing in ministry, in churches, in pastorship, going through all this, oh no, because I'm going to get healed. Let me tell you, there is power in the name of Jesus. Amen. I say that. There is power in the blood. But I've got to tell you, he created the therapist. He created the psychologist. And if you need the psychiatrist, that he put in place too. Folks, God above all. I'm a woman of faith, faith over fear. But I've got news for you. I know who I am. I've been set free, and I'm grateful for Dr. James, and I'm grateful for Kim Glass, for people that dare to tell it and say, hey, we're here. We come to the table, and we are part of the solution. I am forever grateful, grateful. Someone that heard me out. And by the way, my first therapist was not a believer. My second therapist, an Episcopalian, she only did one prayer, and she whispered it to the point that I was like, hello? Can't hear you. And all she prayed was, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Thy kingdom come. This is good soil. Woo, this is good soil. Thy kingdom come. This is your habitation. Abide in me. Your will be done in me. Let it pour out of me. I cannot give you what I don't have. But when I've been set free, guess what? I can only give you the best of me. I am grateful. I am grateful. I need to take over. Back to you, Dr. Serrano. But God is good. God is good. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to walk whole and healed.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Dr. Sandry Serrano Bermudez from the Hand Foundation. Honey, we want to give you a hand. Yes, yes. We can only say that, you know, God is good. He is better than good. And he loves each and every one of us. And he loves each and every one of you watching by Facebook. And you need to know that you are not alone. You're not in this situation by yourself. And you can rise up out of these and you can go forth and be who you were called to be, who you were made to be, who you were created to be. You don't have to let someone's past thought about you define who you are. You make a decision today and you decide who you are, who you're going to be, and how you're going to live your life. And don't let others decide and make those decisions for you. Know that we are here. Yes, Dr. Richard Serrano and myself, we're here. Dr. George James, Dr. Sandry Serrano, Miss Kim Glass, that amazing woman and her wonderful testimony that she is sharing with the world. She decided, I'm not going to rob the world of knowing that God can bring you out of any situation and you don't have to stay stuck. You are an overcomer and you can take that which was given to you and use it, which is power and authority. Yes, not only to tread upon serpents, but to walk in this land and be who you were created to be. Dr. George, we appreciate you. We appreciate each and every one of you on this panel tonight. You guys are the bomb. I'm going to unmute you all because we're going to get ready to say good night to our watchers and seekers on Facebook. We thank God for this platform, for this opportunity, right? We're not asking nobody to pass a bucket, but what we're asking them to do to invest in themselves, right? We need you guys to invest in yourself. And if you know that you're at home and you're a couple or a family and you're in need of some support, nobody's saying that you're crazy, but you're in need of support. All of us need someone to just grab hand and walk alongside us in this journey. That's what each one of us do. We are servants. We're here to serve our Creator first and in this earth, right? So we want to, in that being said, I heard that we serve our homes. We serve where we labor. We serve, our homes are our first ministry. So if you are not doing well in your home, then you definitely need to get help so that you can be a better servant in your home. I love the story that Dr. James shared earlier. It seemed like a simple story, sir, but it was a story that make you think about the little things of being on your social media or checking something and getting into those arguments that really doesn't mean anything. And you have to stop, look and listen, settle yourself, and then check yourself, right? You gotta, something you said earlier, sometimes we gotta reset. Okay, it's not a button, it's a mindset. We gotta reset our mindset. And then one of the ladies said it earlier. She said, and Jen, you wanna breathe. Take it in, let it out. We wanna breathe. Take a moment to breathe. Dr. Keith Everett talks so much about self-care. You must take care of yourself. Kim, in order for you to have gotten where you have gotten to, one day I'm gonna just have to have you all by yourself because we want to know more about that story. And it's not all the little details, but sometimes the deliverance is in the detail. Sometimes it's the detail that helps people to see, because I might say, well, that's not me. I wasn't there, or I'm not in a cult because I'm not at somebody's compound or somewhere. No, sometimes we're in a cult right within our own spaces and places.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, we need to understand that. I'm sorry, go ahead, you say something.
It's so interesting. So I've been quarantined with my parents for the last 2 weeks. Yeah. And through that process, with what I grew up in, there was 8 years that I could not have a relationship with them. And I don't know if you can see behind me, but I'm actually sitting in my dad's office
Oh, wow.
on this call tonight. And so on the other side of fear, there's total fearless freedom, and it's available. It's available to anyone that will step out in faith. And trust me, there is no way that I knew all the steps of what this journey on the other side would be. But I can tell you, it is so worth it.
Yeah.
It's so worth it.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This has been an amazing call. I had the chance to be with my own parents right before coming home to get on this call tonight, and it was a great moment. This time and this dispensation of time that we're in has definitely caused us to reflect. If you're not reflecting, resetting, regrouping, then you're just existing. God wants you to live. He wants you to live, and he wants you to live abundantly. He wants you to live in abundance. So I just, I'm thankful for the topic tonight, for you all that came on late. We were talking about rising up out of depression, out of fear, and out of suicide. It has been an amazing time. We lost one of our panelists, but don't worry, she'll be back on the next call. Dr. Kia Everett, for some reason, her audio and video went out tonight. It would not allow her to even come back into the room. But we thank God for her. We thank God for her ministry and for her work. Those are the ones, you guys are the ones on the front lines. Thank you, Dr. George. Let's get a closing remark from you, and then I'm going to have my husband close us all out on Facebook.
I thank you all for transparency, and I think that in this time, we got to be real, that I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, but the grace of God allows even our mistakes to be triumphs and victories. And thank you, Dr. Sandri, for what you said, that, as part of how I got into this work is just believing that this is where God has placed me. And I've seen the fruit of it. And I know that there's even more to come. So that being able to work together and to support folks and to encourage people that it's okay to get help. And if you are a leader, if you are a helper, you need it even more, because we're the ones that often try to avoid having help, advisors, guides. And I'm thankful for the people who sow into my life. So thank you all for the time.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. We look forward to doing great and wonderful things together. Can't wait to be able to get to you, Kim, so I can give you a great big hug. Yes, yes. Thank you, guys. We're going to sign off tonight. Thank you for looking, all the viewers. Please share this video, because there's someone that you may know that needs to hear this word, or you may not know because they're sitting in silence at home and they're not letting you know what they're going through. But we know that someone was going through, because God would not have given us this topic had it not been so. Thank you all. Have a great night. We'll see you on Monday night. We'll be right back here. Yes, at 9 o'clock. With Rise Up. We're going to have our couples on board, and we're looking to talk about being better together. So we'll see you then.
Topic on Monday is married, single, separated, and life after divorce.
Yeah.
The topic with some really good speakers.
That's gonna be spicy.
Yeah. Just remember that who you're listening with is not the enemy.
Yeah.
But the enemy is the enemy, and not that person that you're with.
Yeah.
A house divided will not stand. Just remember to work together in your homes. But let's just say a word of prayer. We're over our time. But Lord, we just bless you. We
Thank
just
you,
glorify
Father.
your name, and we thank you for all the participants, God, that had in their mind to share, God, to give fruits of the labor of what they have been through, God. And we just pray right now that all those that heard the word, God, on tonight will use it for the glory, and will use it for their homes and their communities, God, and they will be better for it. So we bless you. We give you glory and honor. We ask that you strengthen each and every one, God. Right now, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, guys.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Kim. Bye, Dr.
Bye-bye.
James.
Bye, Dr. Sandri. Bye, Kim. Bye,
Blessings.
Serranos.
Bye.
And
Thank you.
night.
You're welcome, sweetheart.